In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Gloo Gateway to enforce rate limiting and authorization at the GraphQL query or mutation. So for that, I'm just taking this public API about countries, and you can see I can build a query to get some data about the European continent and also about the capital of France. So you see two different queries, and I can get the result I expect and see the capital of France is Paris. And now what I want to do is to expose this public API through Gloo Gateway. So as you have seen in other videos, probably we can use Gloo Gateway as a GraphQL server and stitch together multiple APIs and so on. But we can also expose existing GraphQL APIs. And I want to show you that you can get these features about like rate limiting and authorization in both cases. So I'm not going to use the GraphQL engine we have in Gloo Gateway. Instead, I'm just going to expose this external API. So right now, if I access this endpoint which corresponds to Gloo Gateway, I can see that this route is not found because I have not configured anything. So I'm going to start by creating a new workspace called GraphQL, define the external service, and so on. So I have a first set of YAML that's called GraphQL prep, and you see it's just creating a new namespace called GraphQL and a workspace that is only composed of this namespace, and I'm going to export my external service I'm going to create to the gateway workspace so that it can be exposed. So I can apply this, and if I go back here, I will see directly in the UI that this new workspace is going to be discovered, and I can see that here I have no service that is available locally, but I can access some services that are in the gateway workspace just based on the rules I have defined. So the next step is to use expose this external service. So I use this other CR that's called external service, and I say I want to expose this host through HTTPS, and I'm configuring the gateway so that any request that has this path countries GraphQL is going to be sent to this external service. And you see I rewrite the path because this is what is expected by the GraphQL service, and I also rewrite the host because this is the host that again is expected by this service. So if I do it, then I can see in the UI that I now have this external service I have just created here, and I can see also that I have this route that has been created with this matcher that forwards the traffic to this external service. And if I go here, I should now be able to get the result that I expect, right? So right now nothing is really changing, it's just that everything is flowing through the gateway. But I want to perform some operation based on the query or mutation names. So you see here continent and country. So the way we do it is we are going to create like a few other resources, and that's the one that's called extract query mutation. So you see here I'm going to create a x.policy policy. So it's normally used when you want to authenticate users, and I'm going to do that a little bit later. But you see here I'm using this policy to say whenever there is a request that is going through a route that has this label GraphQL, which is the case of my the route I created in the route table, then I want to send information about this request to this external service, and this external service can be used to allow or deny the request, but in my case I'm not going to use it for that. I'm just using it to enrich my request. And what this program is doing is like a simple Go program that is going to get the body of the request, so in that case this, and is going to use like the standard Golang GraphQL library to parse the request. So it's not like going to do like some trying to parse like in a dirty way. It's really going to use like the GraphQL library to parse everything and to make sure whatever the format of the query is going to be able to parse it properly. And this service is running here. So now when I run the query again, you'll not see any difference here, right? But you can see that this service here is doing its job, right? So it's detecting that I have a query called continent and another query called country, and I'm adding headers there. In fact, I'm also adding some metadata that I can use between these different steps here, and that's what I'm going to show you now. So in the next steps, I want to enforce rate limiting so that I can define some different rate limits based on the query. So to do that, I have another set of objects that is like here. So what it does is just defining some limits based on the different queries, right? So I say here, if I have a query that is country, then I just want to allow 3 requests per minute per user, right? And if it's like the continent one, I want to allow 10 requests per minute. And you see I'm configuring it like telling where to find this information, so the header I am creating. And I also say I want to run that after auth because I want this header to be present, right? So if I apply this, then I just apply this YAML, and you can see that if I go there, I can do 3 calls, but then I am rate limited, but I have more permissions for the continent one, right? So if I keep the continent and remove the country, I can continue up to 10, and then it's failing, right? So it just shows that basically I have been able to do rate limiting based on the query. And also you can see that when one request has several queries inside, it's going to count differently all these queries, and if I remove one of them, then just like I take into consideration the one that is still there, right? So it's quite powerful. You can be very fine-grained and apply different rate limits based on this query or mutations. So that's one thing it does, but you can do more than that, and I'm going to show you this here. You can also use this information for authorization. So I can show you that I can do authorization with OPA. So we have the ability to apply OPA rules. So if you are not familiar with OPA, it's using a language called Rego to define authorization rules. And you see here we can just say I want to edit my extort policy so that after I am adding these headers, and as I say also metadata, then I want to apply OPA rule. And the OPA rules say that basically the country query is not allowed. I don't know, for any reason you could just say like this GraphQL server expose many queries, but there are some I don't want to expose, right? So I can apply this, and now I should not be able to run this query anymore. So I should get a 403, that's what I get here. But if I remove again this country, it should be fine because this is only the country one that is not allowed. So again, let me go back here, and I would say that this is like interesting, but it's probably not like a typical use case. What a typical use case can be is to apply this with some sort of user authentication, right? So here I am updating this X.dot policy to have a first step, which is going to do authentication based on API keys. And you could do that with, OIDC or many other options we provide. But you see, it starts to be interesting, right? I can authenticate a user based on his API key. I can obtain the email of the user based on the email that is associated with his API keys. And you can see when we create the API keys, which can be stored either in Kubernetes secrets or in Redis. But in that case, I'm using Kubernetes secrets. You see I have two API keys, one for user one, that is API key one, and it has this email information that says that this is user1@example.com, and I have the same for user 2, but this time it's user2@solo.io. So I am authenticating the user, I am extracting this email information in this xemail header and metadata, and then I'm going to continue the flow. But I can update this OPA rule so that now it's not that I want country to be forbidden for everyone. I just want to make sure that country is going to be allowed only for the users that have an email that ends with solo.io. So let's try that. So if I apply this new rule, so first of all, I should not be able to access anything anymore, right? I get a 4.1 because I didn't provide any API key. If I go and add a header called API key, and I use API key 1, which is the one of user 1, you see it's forbidden because I am basically trying to access this country query that is not allowed for this user that has this email that ends by example.com. But if this user try to just use continent, then he can, right? It's fine because there is no rule that prevents him from accessing this API. And now if I update my header and say, okay, I want to use API key 2, then that should be fine. And that's fine, right? Because I am now a user that has an email that ends with solo.io. So I hope it was useful. You can see how you can apply rate limits and authorization based on query or mutation names, how you can mix these things with other complex workflow. We have also customers, like as I say, using OIDC, getting a JOT token, extracting a claim, and using that in this authorization in conjunction with queries and so on. And you can see that in the UI here, right, as well, that now I see that I have like apply like an X.dot policy here and rate limiting here, right? And you can see, the different type of authentication there. You can even like go to this GraphQL workspace here, and you can see basically what's going on there. So this is like my API, so I can probably like just make it better so that I can see only what I want, which is my external service here. So let me just like go there and change the layout here, remove this idle stuff, and display the gateway as well. And you see here, right, so that what's happening here is that I have requests coming from the ingress gateway that are going to this external service called countries, right? And you can see also that it's red because I got some 403 and 401 when I was like doing my my different tests, right?